fighting Brainiac. Who knew?
Yeah.
He's not the most interesting character.
I find it so interesting how I do not care about anything DC related when it comes to majority of the movies other than anything Batman.
Yeah.
And then the games, God, when you were Grub, when you were talking about Rocksteady trying to make another Batman game, and then I forgot who you were with, but you were talking and speculating about like, oh, they should just make a Batman Beyond game. Oh man, that kind of so juiced.
Yeah, since then I've heard it's not a Batman Beyond game. So yeah,
Damn it.
It's a bummer. Apparently when because we were like hoping, right? Like it wasn't even like
Wasn't there a rumor for ages that they were gonna do a Damian Wayne game? That was like the rumor before Suicide Squad.
Right?
Who cares
Yeah.
about Damien.
I certainly do. I don't. What's Damien's deal? Is that he's the son of Ra's al Ghul's daughter and Batman?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. I don't care about him. I think that as long as they do something stylistic, like something that has a oomph to its look, which apparently maybe is what they're gonna do, I would be in for it. I think Batman Beyond was just such the easiest one to go to that it's like that's what they should have done, but
Sure.
that's not gonna be it. So, but yeah, in terms of like what else, like DC, like is anyone holding a candle out for that Wonder Woman game?
No, not at all.
I mean, I'm sure like it could be good, but right now I'm not like thinking about the Wonder Woman game at any time.
People care less about Wonder Woman right now than they have in a long time because that second movie was like real unwatchable.
Yeah,
It was
Soured
bad.
a lot of people.
Yeah, I did not enjoy playing that video. I did not enjoy that movie. That movie was bad. I sat down, remembering really liking the first movie, and then I started that, and like 45 minutes in, I turned it off and never went back to it because I found it so repulsive. I don't know honestly, I don't even know what is repulsive about it. I just could not stomach it.
I sat through all of The Flash in a theater. Jan, did you go see that?
I did not because what's
It would
their
make you
face?
angry. It would make you
Okay.
so angry. It's so I had like a movie pass thing so I could go see it without giving them any money. And I was like, listen, I'm fucking curious. And then when fucking the Superman guy who like died allegedly because of stigma related to playing Superman shows up in that and they just CGI his face and it looks terrible.
Ugh.
I was like, oh, this is fucking awful. And like this is just the worst fucking thing I've ever seen. I did also watch the Batman, the Matt Reeves one this week. And it turns out when you like light a movie like it's an actual movie and it's like shot like it's an actual movie, it kind of feels like 100 times more important than everything else.
Yeah, that Matt Reeves guy, he knows how to make a movie. We should just let him make more movies.
Yeah, put more apes in his movies too. That worked out really well every time so far.
Isn't there like a bad ape man in DC?
Oh, there's one of everything in DC. They got them all.
There's the one that's literally like he was a recurring villain in the Flash TV show.
Gorilla
Grodd.
Oh my God, put Gorilla Grodd in the Batman.
Would love it.
And the best thing is Matt Reeves has been out there being like, yeah, we don't want to make this too like fantastical or like not grounded in reality. So just be a fucking gorilla. You just be a normal gorilla.
Oh, that would be that would actually like a criminal real gorilla. Did either of you watch Penguin?
Yes.
I'm gonna watch it this weekend. I was watching the Batman so I could watch the Penguin again.
It seems good from a distance. Yeah.
Okay. Everyone knows that I'm a big fan of comic books, comic book related things. So take my opinion with a grain of salt. But yo, that shit banged. Like, I normally don't like when an actor will just put on a bunch of makeup, put on like a fat suit or something to like dramatically change themselves so they can get lost in the role. But yo, I could not tell that it was Colin Farrell. I completely forgot, and it was very charming. It was very good. I never cared about the Penguin until now.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at. Where it's like, I mean, but I don't know. Like, people are like, I didn't care about Andor till that show came out, and I'm like, well, I cared about Andor, but whatever. Penguin seems like it could be doing a similar thing.
I don't want to say that this is DC's Andor moment, but it
Yeah.
could potentially be. Kristen Milioti in this show, absolutely fantastic. Most of my exposure to her has just been in the last season of How I Met Your Mother.
Okay,
and,
that lady.
and Palm Springs. She's great in that.
Oh, Palm Springs. Yeah, Palm Springs
Yes.
rules.
She's
Yes.
fantastic in that. But here, absolutely unhinged. The supporting cast is also very fantastic and great. Yeah. I would even take a Penguin game based off of Colin Farrell's Penguin at this
Okay.
point.
I want to see it.
Okay. Video games.
Guys, Deacon isn't talking to me.
Well, we haven't introduced Deacon yet on the podcast.
Yeah, he's a strong silent type too.
Okay.
So
Like the general rule is you're not allowed to talk yet until you're introduced on a podcast. And
that's right.
we're just
And
gonna
he's
test
very
Deacon.
polite. He's
He's
very
very
polite.
polite. He loves his wife. He loves his bike, and he loves to kill freakers. Folks, my life has been absolutely ruined. Not just because of current circumstances, but also because of current circumstances of Balatro now being available on mobile platforms.
How to translate?
Incredibly well, it turns out.
Oh no!
Oh boy. Oh man. So we got access to this a little bit earlier than when it came out on Apple Arcade and Google Play. And let me tell you, the looks that I've been getting in the public places where I'll pull this out. I was waiting to get my COVID booster and flu shot, and I was just playing up a couple hands of Balatro. And then the kind nurse looked at me and said, like, "Oh, really into poker, huh? You betting real money here? This looks like a crazy poker going on." And I had to explain to her that it's a single-player poker game that isn't really a poker game per se. And then she just politely nodded her head and was like, "All right, honey, which arm do you want the shot on?"
All right,
Jan,
that's fun.
it is really bad when a video game like that you don't think of as people having like a stigma around has a stigma around it. I tried to play Final Fantasy VII Remake on a plane, and there was an old
That has
woman
a
next to
stigma.
me,
Come on.
and it got to the Honeybee Inn part, and she was just
Oh,
like
sure.
staring at me as we got off the plane.
So, God, Balatro, if you haven't played it and you've been waiting to play it for whatever reason, if you have bought an iPhone, you probably have like a 3-month trial to Apple Arcade. If you bought any Apple device, they just
That's
try and
right.
throw
It's an
Apple
Arcade. I forgot about that.
Is it only on Apple Arcade?
No, you can also buy it, I think, separately.
Yeah, you can also buy it. And
It's the first game like that, actually. That's launching in Apple Arcade, and you can buy it separately.
yeah, normally it is like an Apple Arcade exclusive for a hot minute, and then they'll jump over to you can buy it separately, like Grindstone did. But yo, you've heard us wax poetically about Balatro. If you've been waiting to play it, I think this is actually the perfect platform to play it. The touch controls translate incredibly well, as far as I can tell. Also they do like I don't know how this is on Androids, but on iPhones at least, they're big on the haptic feedback when it comes to the vibrations, just like on DualSense.
Yeah.
God, it does like the little ticks, like when you shuffle the cards and like they go back into your phone, you drag them
I bet
out.
that feels really good. Yeah,
Feel
HD
real
rumble,
good.
Yeah,
Feel real good,
It feels
grub.
like you're walking through sand, just all
That's
the hits.
right.
yeah.
You know what? My one thing is that Donch Edel in the Giant Bomb chat brings this up. I was kind of hoping that there would be a hot dog mode for the game, a tate mode for the game.
Sure. Yeah. One-handed mode. Yeah.
Yeah, because man, if there's not a one-handed
In case you
mode,
need to do other things.
right? You need to like
Handle your
perhaps-
money. Yeah.
handle your money. Maybe you're drinking coffee in one hand. Perhaps it's on a steering wheel and you're just chilling with the
That's
steering
right.
wheel.
Yeah,
You're
you
not
got the steering-
driving.
Not driving.
No.
You're just having a good sit in the car.
Yeah.
You're wiping your butt.
You're wiping your butt.
It is weird though
Exactly.
to see like a non-Genshin style game that is in portrait mode on mobile phones anymore. Because basically everything that is like a puzzle game or is like an idle game, they're all vertical now.
Right. That's true.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, on PC originally, wasn't like the screen like 4:3, so it's like maybe it wouldn't have been that hard to make it vertical. But I don't know. I'm no designer. I'm just glad it's on phone.
Me too. Me too. Get it now while it's out. It's kind of crazy.
Hearthstone was always horizontal on mobile, right?
It was
They
always
never
hamburger mode.
Okay.
Jesus Christ. And you know, I was just reminded that holy smokes, Balatro is like a lock either for 1 or 2 for game of the year. For me personally, I don't want to speak for
I
anyone
mean,
else.
it's going to be up there for sure.
Um,
I know it's going to upset Mikey because he doesn't believe that indie games are real games, but yep.
wow,
He's always saying it.
how's he gonna feel that now a phone game could win game of the year?
Pretty
So
upset.
I'm not sure if you heard this, but at Gamescom when I was hanging out with Mike, I was like talking to him and being like, "Hey, you should go to the indie booth," and he punched me. He
Yep.
fucking punched. He was like, "Fuck you, go to the indie booth." No, I'm only going to see Amazon. I only care about AWS servers.
That's right. That's right. And then he sat in
wild.
on a presentation about AWS servers.
Yeah,
Um,
wild.
The other quick game I've been playing before we get to everyone else, just because I was on my phone again, I re-downloaded it, folks. I thought maybe my cards have been satiated, but no.
Oh no.
I
Are you looking for
re-downloaded.
the heart of the cards?
No, I wish. I re-downloaded Marvel Snap, everyone.
Yeah. Okay. There it is.
And let me tell you, I don't know what the current meta is. I haven't really looked into it. I haven't investigated. I just
I
kind of
still move decks.
there were people doing stuff, Grub, where like their card was like being eaten by one card, and it wasn't like the Venom one or a symbiote. It was like a different. I guess it was a symbiote because it was like Spider-Man. I don't know. I didn't really investigate the current meta or what's popping or not. I just refamiliarized myself with the deck I was playing as, and turn 1 I snapped, and then I kept emoting because the toxic person in me came out. And then I go to the other person into snapping. So then we got to 8 cubes, and then I won those 8 cubes. And then
Okay. All right. So now you're fully hooked again.
yeah, and then I looked in a mirror and I realized I'm a monster of a person.
You were salivating. Yeah.
Lex Luddy.
How do you feel about that, Deacon St. John? Oh, he's revving his motor. Oh, snap. Oh, no.
Whoa.
Okay, well, he gets excited. That's how he communicates.
Guys, we have to be careful. We're on Twitch. He will ride his motorcycle like he rides
Yeah.
his...
His beautiful wife, right? Yes.
Yeah.
He will bust the hog out. Lex Luddy, have you been playing anything that you can talk about?
So I can't talk about the main thing. I'm playing something that Sean is also playing for review, and right before the stream started, I found out I am not nearly as far in it as I thought, which is awesome. But I have been playing some stuff on stream. I got set up working to play a bunch of PS3 games.
Lex, how old were you when the PS3 came out?
I would have been 6 when it was first released.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's this angry revving.
Oh, no.
It's an angry rev. Oh, no. Deacon.
So, first thing I've been trying to do was download things on a PS3, which, let me tell you, that's fucking... Buying things on a PS3 anymore is real fucking difficult.
Oh, you sweet summer child.
Yeah, the way that they haven't discontinued the shop, but what you have to do is you have to buy credit at a store. So I went into a store and I said, give me 150 euro of PSN credit, and they were like, are you laundering this? And I was like, no. And then I went back to my house and I had to register the code on my PS5. You can't do it on the PS3 anymore. Then I turned on the PS3 and I tried to spend it, and it was still pinging my credit card, and it was like, we can't use your credit card. So then I had to turn on my PS5 again, get the PS5 to forget my credit card, like delete my credit card from my PS5, and then go back to the PS3, and then I could buy Tokyo Jungle. And that's what I'm doing with my life. And yeah, so I've been playing like some PS3 games. We played Yakuza Dead Souls.
Ooh.
Not a good game.
Oh.
Really pretty fucking rotten in a lot of ways. People who defend that game, guys, there's allowed to be a bad Yakuza game. It's fine.
That's the one. We found it.
Yeah, played Stranglehold, which it's really good for the first 2 or 3 hours.
Yes.
And then they're like, okay, let's give you some bosses that have a shitload of health and do a load of damage to you. And the big problem with that game is it's really cool that you can do the John Woo jumps and you can like dive, but then you can't shoot when you're getting up from the dives. So then you're like, why would I ever dive? Because I'm then just taking damage when I land. So you just play it like a cover shooter for the final half, which is really annoying. And then we are finishing up. I tried to play Killzone 1. Killzone 1 is dreadful. Killzone 1 is a real nightmare to go back to. It is hard to go back to that game.
What specifically about Killzone makes it hard to go back to? I haven't
Playing it.
Oh,
It's a PS2 game and it's a PS2 shooter, and like it looks very impressive as a PS1 or a PS2 game, but like it doesn't feel good to move around. There's no sprint button, there's no like anything. It's very bare bones. It's kind of corridor shootery, and there's no aim down sights. It's very bare bones. And like something that I've noticed in going back to a lot of these old games is a lot of them are just silent. There just isn't like ambient music in them. Killzone is like dead quiet in gameplay. There's just nothing.
The Foley chip on the PS3 just wasn't very powerful. They didn't have a good Foley guy inside of that thing.
And then I've been playing Infamous 1, which plays great, but I fucking hate everyone in it. Cole McGrath is a piece of shit asshole. I've decided that Cole McGrath was there on January 6th.
Sure.
Yeah, and I've decided that his friend is like one of the guys writing all of that stuff online that's like causing them to start the conspiracies. Like they just fucking suck. Yeah. We
found Q.
Zeke is Q.
Okay.
And so that's a weird game to go back to because I'm like, I'm enjoying playing this, but also I fucking hate these people because they're written like. Do you remember, like, in the early 2000s when they remade a bunch of horror movies and they just made all the characters the most awful people imaginable? And so, like, you just don't give a shit? All the characters are written like that, too. Like, a whole 3-hour stream the other day where I was playing Infamous 1 was dedicated to Zeke trying to get his dick wet. And I was like, I hate this.
Get in, bro.
I hate this
priorities
so much.
were different back then, you know?
Yeah. And it was kind of wild to go back to because it was like, oh, this is where Sony decided things were going to be like this, you know? This is where Sony decided everything was going to be a third-person action game. Because up until then, like, they had Killzone and they had Resistance, which were first-person games. But other than God of War, they didn't really have, like, a cinematic action game in any way.
Is his name really Cole McGrath?
Yeah, it's Cole McGrath.
What a name.
He doesn't sound like Irish or even Bostonian. He speaks with, like, a weaselly voice. And I'm like, this guy doesn't sound like a Cole McGrath.
We should do a Mount Rushmore for worst protagonist names.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I'd put Cole McGrath up there for sure. Yeah, related to Mark McGrath, of course. Yeah.
Right.
Miles Kilo is in best character names.
Oh,
wait, who's Miles Kilo?
The main character in the reboot of Syndicate, Grob. A game which I have never played, but I will always think about because they named the main character 2 units of measurement.
Yeah, right. And not completely unrelated to Miles Prower, because that's a different last name. But yeah, that's what really threw me off. I've played that Syndicate game. I forgot that's that character's name. Holy crap.
If y'all had to guess how many Resistance games there were, how many do you think there are?
3 on console and 2 on handhelds. Is that right?
Ding, ding, ding. You
really?
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
You think
the
those
real
games
question
hold
is
up?
how many Siphon Filter games were there? Because there was a shitload of those on handhelds.
I think
there's a lot on PSP, I think. At least 2.
Yeah, I would say like 6 total Siphon Filter games. I don't know. 7? Okay, 7 sounds right. You get one more. For like the PS3 era stuff, it is very much like, no, you get 3 on the PS3, and then we're going to do 2 on handheld. That just felt like what I would answer for any series that started at that time. Resistance, I think a lot of people do really like those games still. I never really cared for them all that much. I definitely tried them a couple times and was like, I don't get it. But I kind of would like to go back to it now and see how they hold up. I don't know.
And then when I finish Infamous, I only have 1 mission left in it. I'm going back to this game, which nobody seems to remember.
Ooh, I thought the girl on the cover of Folklore was cute because it's just a plaid skirt. Is that a plaid skirt?
That's all it takes?
Yeah.
Plaid skirt, overalls, done.
Yeah.
This is a role-playing game developed by a Japanese studio, published by Sony, which takes place outside of Dublin.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's why I'm playing it.
So you haven't started it yet?
I haven't started it yet, but
all right. I want you to report back about like what is going on in that whole game.
Yeah. I bet it's just like the church that I went to yesterday for the conference. I went to a video game biz dev conference yesterday, and it was held next to a rugby pitch in an old church. We're not beating the fucking allegations. We're really not. So that was weird.
That just sounds like where most things happen in your country. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
a church somewhere.
Right next to the rugby pitch in the church. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Now's it down.
God, I kind of, I never had a PS3 until I had one way after it was like already retired. Kind of want to circle back to some stuff. You've inspired me.
It sounds like a
been
good
fun.
time. We could do
It's been fun
PS3
'cause,
week.
like, the PS3 was like the first console that I was playing when I really was starting to like enjoy video games
Sure.
as more than just a toy. But also, I was a fucking dumbass idiot who like wasn't reading magazines, so I didn't know what was good. So it was usually like, hey, what can we get for cheap, or what has my brother got in for as a recommendation from one of his older friends. So like I played Dark Souls and I played Last of Us was one of the big like PS3 games in my mind. But I'd never played the early PS3 games because we didn't get ours until like 2011.
So now
so
it's
there was
time to go back to Layer and get the 6 access out and really enjoy the game the way it was meant to be played.
Grub, there was a copy of Lair sitting downstairs, literally underneath me right now. So
Yes, there we go.
Yeah.
All right, make it happen.
You think we could get PlayStation All Stars up and running?
Yes, I promise you I could do that. Yes.
I have it installed on my PS3 right now.
Fantastic.
I'll make it happen for us, and we can play it online and stuff. We'll do it.
You know what game I always had so much FOMO about on the PS3? Oddly enough,
Haze.
No. I experience Haze in my own way. Fat Princess.
Oh sure, yeah, man, that was weird. She was in PlayStation Battle All Stars Battle Royale. Like
It's weird
like,
she wasn't in
that was the
Astrobot.
thing.
It's weird that
Yeah,
she was in that,
odd.
Astrobot.
They're saving it for the DLC. That's worth
You're
paying
right.
for.
Right. Jeff Grubb, have you been playing any other games before the big game we're going to talk about this app?
I spent some more time at UFO 50. Right after the Bombcast, I started up Pilot Quest and got super addicted to it immediately. That is the clicker idle game that has the sort of wilds you can go out to, and it kind of turns it into a little bit of an action idle game. And I'm saying idle as in IDLE, as in idle hands, not IDOL. Although there might be an idle game in here as well. I don't know. I haven't played all 50 yet. But it's you crash land on the planet. There's a big crystal in the middle of your camp. You need to hit the crystal with your yo-yo. More moon shards come out. You get 100 or 1,000 of those, and then you can turn that into a moon ingot. You get 5 of those. You can build a house that attracts little alien friends that are not slaves that you could put to work for free, and they will make more moon ingots for you. And then if you improve their houses, more will move in. Then you can go start doing science research. If you find a cog out in the wilds, you bring that back to the science praying mantis. You install that, he'll let you research some stuff. For example, you can get stamina pills that you can give to your aliens who aren't slaves, and they'll work even harder and make ingots even faster. It's fun, and I like it quite a bit.
Glub, you know how like game developers spend ages trying to figure out ways to tutorialize their games?
Yeah.
And, like, it's basically an art
You
form,
shouldn't.
and there's GDC talks on it, and yeah, the real trick is just to get you to like record off the top of your brain what to do in the game.
Just on cassette tape that comes with the game. Yeah. The thing with the game is like you're just supposed to poke at everything, and then eventually something will respond in a way where it's like, oh, I can keep doing this, and then you start to see the numbers of like, okay, I'm getting these little moon shards by punching the crystal with my yo-yo, and I see how much that requires. That seems like a lot. I could probably speed up this process if I look around a little bit, and then you find ways to like just slowly build up your efficiencies and make everything more productive. It really is capitalism, colonialism, just going right in your veins. And of course,
thanks for prepping for colonialism week.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, guys, I meant to say I've had some real red flags been raised about this.
Listen, there's a lot of really good game mechanics that just are like, isn't colonialism the shit? And it's like, okay, look, I know it's in my bones and my blood, but we don't have to say it so out loud. Yeah, it's just another really fun game in UFO 50, which every time I try one of these things, I'm like at least like, hey, that's cool in its own way of what it's attempting to evoke from classic video games, or it's just legit a great game, and that's been a really fun experience so far. So UFO 50 continues to be pretty amazing.
Right now.
Yes, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's playing it at Summer Games Fest. There was like such an excitement around everyone that played it because everyone played different mini games, and we only had 10 minutes to play it. So like whenever you talk to someone who was like, "Did you play UFO 50?" they were telling you about a different game, and like it did actually feel like trading stories with your like friends at school. It was like that game seems so cool.
I got a wizard yo-yo.
Oh,
And that's after I got the metal yo-yo. I got to start with the regular yo-yo, then you get the metal yo-yo, and then at the very end, it's like, I'm gonna get the wizard yo-yo, and you're like, I'm at the end of the upgrade tree. I'm not gonna be able to use this, and they're like, no, there's more stuff you can keep doing with the wizard yo-yo. Don't worry.
More games should have yo-yos.
I think yo-yos should be back.
Guys, God Bless the Ring. There's a character that uses a yo-yo as a weapon.
I feel like there has to be like 50 RPGs where there's a character that uses yo-yos as weapons.
I think it should be back as an insult too. Quit being such a fucking yo-yo.
Rob, you can't say that.
I can say that. That's for my people. Yeah,
I like that. All right. I like that. We're gonna introduce that into the vernacular, just like Hizo.
New slur unlocked. Oh, damn it!
Fucking yo-yos. See, it sounds good. Like
it does.
All right, I'm gonna do my best Colin Farrell as the penguin imitation.
Okay.
Oh, hey, you ever get the slush puppies? You know, you mix the red and the blue one, you fucking yo-yo.
Oh, you made him excited. You made him excited.
Dink.
Dink, calm down.
Dink, don't run me over.
Exactly. Please. Alexis too young. Jeff Grubb, you and I have been playing, I'm going to say the game of the week or the game of the Bombcast Revengeance. The Legend of Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom.
Woo, yeah. I am really kind of getting the hang of it, which is, I think there might be, I think if you come into it with a lot of Zelda experience, even the recent Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild stuff, I think you're still going to be in this situation where it's like, where's my sword? How do I hit things with the sword? And that is where you're going to get into combat scenarios, and it gives you so much freedom. It's like, no, you need to figure this out on your own, that it can be a little bit paralyzing sometimes. And so, again, this is the top-down, people call it 2D, Legend of Zelda game where you play as Zelda, and she has a rod that can summon any sort of enemy or object that she first absorbs with the wand. Tables, beds, and a lot of these things have multiple purposes, but any enemy you defeat, you could then get their soul added to the rod, and it becomes part of the roster of things you can summon at any one time. They all have costs associated with them, and you can upgrade how many you can summon at any one time as you play the game.
Some of my best friends are women with rods that can summon things too.
Exactly. Yes, it's beautiful, and I'm glad games are finally representing them.
And we stand with them.
We stand with womenwithrods.com. It goes to Giant Bomb now. This is the kind of game where it's like, I want this. If they were to ask me what kind of new Zelda game would you want, I would give me one where I can just have any sort of object and that the physics is there and the chemistry system kind of works. So if there's a fire, it catches everything else on fire. And then now that I have it, I'm like, oh no, now it's up to me to make this game kind of fun.
Sure.
Like it's on me.
Yeah.
And so in combat, I am trying to be as playful as possible. I'm trying to not just fall into a rut of using the same thing each time. And then when I do that, and it's like I'm kind of flailing because I'm sending the bokoblins out there with their spear, and they're taking 10 seconds to throw their spear because they are still those same enemies you fight as Link. They're dumb and they're slow, and it's like, okay, they're not really doing anything. I'm going to summon something else which makes them disappear, and then you go back to kind of the tried and true, like the Caramadillo, which is the armadillo that you could send out, and he rolls into a ball and he carams around the place, and it's like, okay, I can just shoot that right at this guy over and over and kill him. They do give you the swordsman ability that we saw in some of the trailers. This is a limited time thing that you can repower by getting some of the power up juice in the world. But for 10 to 15 seconds, you could turn into basically Link, use your sword and attack things, and that might take some of the edge off the confusion of trying to figure out what's the best way to handle any combat scenario. Now, outside of combat, all the puzzles, it's like that is almost always fun to be like, how can I figure this out on my own? Especially when I got to the point where I'm like, there probably is some very specific, obvious answer that is the best way to do this one thing. And if I were to play the game the right way, I would have that tool. It would be occurring to me and I'd be using it. But because I'm kind of playing this game a little bit like a jackass, because I'm me, I've just been sort of going around and trying stuff before I'm going to the obvious thing that I'm supposed to be going to. I found myself in situations where it's like, all right, time to use the bed again to figure out how I'm going to solve this thing that I'm clearly not actually capable of solving in this right moment. And that has been really fun. And then the best thing is you're on this classic Legend of Zelda Link to the Past map, and they got the big ridges that separate the various towns and stuff. But if you have the stuff, like you have a couple trampolines, you can get on top of those, and you can just take a shortcut from like the desert back into the town immediately by jumping over the wall. It rules. It's so much fun. It makes the game feel so open up and free. I'm enjoying it more and more as I play it. How about you?
I've definitely run into the same issue, Grub, that you've had, where you try and do everything else except the thing that the game is kind of pointing or directing you to do, just for whimsy's sake.
Yeah.
It's the same problem that I had with Scribblenauts. Scribblenauts,
I got
cool
a good
game.
point of reference. Yes.
Super cool game where it's very open-ended in how to approach a challenge level, but it's a little different here in Echoes of Wisdom because it's not necessarily a segmented level or mission. It's just existing in the world and navigating it. And I am tempted to try as many different solutions as possible, only to see that, okay, well, this was much simpler than I was making it out to be. The UI stuff, very, very frustrating if you don't dip out to go to the grid menu.
Yeah, you want to go to the grid menu. That's the biggest tip. Hit the start button, go to the grid menu.
Yeah, so you can copy a bunch of different objects. The game, you can't copy everything. The game points out what you can. Grub mentioned you can copy the souls of enemies, but when you're switching the item you're copying or summoning, it'll at first shoot out a long horizontal line. If you've played Tears of the Kingdom, you're familiar with how the items are managed. But as Grub said, hit the start button, go to the overall grid, because it is incredibly frustrating to like cycle back and forth on that gigantic line, especially
You're
early
just
into
gonna
the
forget
game.
that you have stuff if you do it that way. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's like it's gonna be on the other side, and you're just gonna not end up using it.
An hour and a half into the game, you already have like a substantial amount of objects to copy that you'll wind up forgetting. But Grub, I fell into the same pattern. I wound up using the armadillo dude to handle a lot of the situations. Honestly, I wish this game didn't have the combat into it, and then you could still summon the enemies, but you wouldn't use the enemies for combat. You would have to use them to solve different puzzles. And
It is kind of like, it's a weird way that they've chosen to go about it, because it does feel like someone at Nintendo was like, well, we can't give Zelda a sword. She can't hit someone with a sword herself. And then they were like, well, we still do want combat, and we still do want to be able to be like, yeah, Zelda can take care of herself in a fight, but not with weapons. You know, it's very weird.
Yeah, I could see that probably did happen, but it just seems like they were like making that Zelda map maker game, and they were looking around like, okay, it probably worked like a little bit the reverse, but the exact same thing, where it's like, we're gonna make this Zelda map maker game, and now it's actually more fun to just to solve puzzles with these tools. But it doesn't make sense for Link not to be using his sword all the time. Wouldn't we just use his sword? Well, who wouldn't? Well, Zelda. And so it's like the same thing, but in reverse. But yeah, I think that they got most of the way there. And I bet as I get more tools and more enemies that are more powerful, like I got like a level 2 one of the mummy guys, the Gibbidos or something like that, and I have a level 2 Caramdillo, and Caramdillo, yeah, and it makes it a little bit easier to like, okay, they're taking things out quicker. I feel more capable already. It's just like some of the things are a little bit more useless than others in combat, and it takes some experimenting to figure that out.
I do appreciate how open-ended it seems, because Link's Awakening, I really enjoyed that remake, but as someone who hadn't played the original game and
prescribed.
And it's also quite obtuse in places if you're not paying like very close attention, and so I wound up just like having a guide open next to me for the whole thing, because I was just like, I just want to actually like get through this game. Whereas I do like the idea of coming across a puzzle and like just being able to brute force it.
Yes, and that rules, and they lean into that. And you should, like, if you're at a puzzle, you should just like give it your best go with anything you have, because you'll probably be able to come up with something. Like there was that one, I like, okay, there are these little guys that are related to your the dude that is your like your Navi in this game, and so you're trying to rescue their friends. And there's 5 instances of these places where they're hiding in this little room. And I've got everything except for one that was at the top of a pillar. and around the pillar was some quicksand. So I couldn't necessarily like build something like trampolines on top of this thing, on top of that thing to sort of bounce up there. And the pillar was tapered. So I couldn't also do the thing where it's like I'll put a spider on the side of the thing and then I will bind to the spider and then I will follow it. And that means the spider can do its normal path going up and then I'll start floating up and then I could just get up there as it climbs over the other side. It was tapered so the spider wasn't climbing up there. So there was this kind of cliff over to the right. And I built just the sort of the bed bridge, and this felt like very like just duct taped together. And then I turned into Link because Link can jump higher because he's a man. And then I jumped further, and I was able to just barely make the jump and get this little item. And I put this on Twitter, and other people were mentioning how they solved this. And some were like, I had a bird, and I just attached myself to the bird and waited until he kind of flew over in that direction by chance. And it's like, yeah, like that's another way to do that. And a bunch of people had a bunch of other answers and stuff. I think the actual way to solve that, a little spoiler, but I mean, I'll say this one. So it'll just like 10, 15 seconds. There's a flying tile like from Zelda 1. Apparently you can get those and add those to your repertoire. And then you could put that on the ground, attach yourself to that, and it'll just fly right in that direction, and it'll go straight. So you could just like line it up perfectly. And it's like, okay, fair enough.
Two things. One, I want to see these tools in a Tears of the Kingdom game, just because I loved the different abilities they give Link and how those you could break the game absolutely. Like I loved ascending up the rock enemies in Tears of the Kingdom. It was my favorite thing to do, and I kind of felt like I was violating those rock people.
Do go inside them.
You do go inside them. But being able to like copy a bunch of stuff and kind of like duct tape haphazardly stitch things together like you could in Tears of the Kingdom. But as Zelda, I feel like you could add another layer where you could kind of avoid combat better and just magic your way through any of those instances. My question for you, Grub, is we've seen a lot of talk now since the game has been out for a bit, and I say a bit by like a day, that the performance is a little bit all over the place.
It is.
Super, I've noticed it getting super framey when I specifically enter in more of the open areas versus the dungeons. The dungeons feel like they run a little bit smoother. Do you think that is particularly the case because this may have been designed with being a Zelda maker instead of like a fully open world?
I mean, a lot of these problems were in Link's Awakening, and the very specific problem that seems to be plaguing Link's Awakening and this is the game is trying to stream in open world data while you're walking around. And, you know, I mentioned that thing where like you can climb over the walls that typically were the borders between zones in previous Zelda games. Well, those borders don't really exist anymore. You can climb up there, take the trampolines, hop over. And so the game needs to be ready to bring that information into the game at any moment, but it can't keep it loaded all the time because this map is 8 times the size of Link's Awakening. And we already know Link's Awakening was too big because the problem there was loading in the world at any one time. So, I think that the issue might have been like maybe the Zelda maker side of things was going to solve some of these problems by just avoiding them and letting you have like smaller dungeons or something like that, where the game does run much better. It's not perfect. There are some frame drops in the dungeons, but it's much better. That's where like when I was at PAX East and I played the game, I was playing mostly in the dungeon. I'm like, I didn't notice anything. This seems fine. And it was like, oh, but it was the open world where a lot of that stuff was still happening. I am bothered by it. But I'm also used to it now, especially after Link's Awakening. Like by the time I finished Link's Awakening, I was like, I'm mostly over this. I wish this game ran better. But here it's like it's not bothering me that much. I'm still kind of like just focused on the game. So I wouldn't let people. I wouldn't let people have be hung up on this specific thing as a reason not to try the game. There's a lot of cool things going on here, and yeah, it does seem like maybe when it does come to Switch 2, it could see improvements because people are showing it run off on some emulators and it's running at like 160 frames per second or something like that. So maybe Switch 2 comes to the rescue here pretty soon. So if you want to wait for that, maybe I don't blame you, but I'm enjoying this game right now. And like I said, the more I play it, the more I get on its wavelength, the more I am enjoying myself, and also the less I'm thinking about the performance issues.
Question for the two of you: do you think that the like flexible gameplay style is now, if this game does really well, or does whatever they want it to do. Do you think that flexible gameplay style is now the core thing for Zelda and for that franchise, or do you think they ever go back to a more traditional game at all?
I think that I think this is like the thesis statement for Zelda, and I think it always has been to a certain extent. Of we want people to feel like they're making discoveries about how things can work and what they can do, and we want them to have their own ideas and then work on expressing those ideas. And that does go back to the Legend of Zelda on the NES. Of we're just going to set you free, and you go figure out how everything works. And if you have an idea, maybe it'll work. Maybe if you light that bush on fire, something's hidden underneath it. Now, that game, much more rigid in terms of what you actually could do. But this is them expounding on that idea. So I do think that they will mostly stick with this going forward. That said, as I'm playing this, I am finding myself being like, kind of wish for the next top-down Zelda that we're getting here, it was more like A Link Between Worlds, which I think is one of the best games ever made. And I think that there's still room for that also to exist alongside what they're doing with these games. And now I do pair this up with Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild as being part of these games of very creative, expressive games from Nintendo in the Zelda franchise.
I think Nintendo doesn't want to go back to the well too much with this type of game flexibility, like you're talking about, Lex. And I never really grew up with Zelda. Wasn't one of the IPs I really cared about growing up. But I would be interested into seeing a different take on this and something that feels better and performs better overall. I could see like a different twist on the isometric Zelda format. Also, I guess I wouldn't mind there being both. I see definitely a place where you can have your Link with weird goopy abilities in one spot, and then also have, if not a more serious version of Legend of Zelda, something.
Then that would ruin the timeline, Jan. The sacred,
shoot!
The sacred
Timelines. I don't care about timelines anymore. God, the grand calculus of the universe. I see it in front of me. I don't know. Let's go back to Wind Waker, because there wasn't anything super goofy in that except water, right?
That's right. Just water.
Just water.
And don't worry, that will be like a fantasy in a couple of years' time when the Water Wars start.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, man,
Water Wars start in Legend of Zelda. Yeah, I honestly, if Switch 2 comes out and we get another like big proper Legend of Zelda game, I don't think it'll be within this specific timeline of Hyrule. I think we may be done.
Yeah. A couple other things. The game stops you way too often. The sidekick character wants to tell you everything you're seeing. You're like chasing what looks like maybe Link. The game's gonna tell you you're chasing someone, and it might be Link. And then he's going somewhere.
That stream yesterday, it kind of reminded me of watching people play Skyward Sword for the first time.
Yeah. I'm like, did the Skyward Sword people go over to help Grezzo or something? Because it is out of control. I guess maybe it's not as bad as Skyward Sword, but it is very frequently stopping you to talk to you, and it's never something that you really need to hear. And the story is basic to the point where you don't need a lot of characters telling you how they feel about it. Like, yeah, the king got sucked into the goop, and he comes out and he's evil now, and he wants to imprison and maybe kill Zelda. Cool, got it. Everyone has an opinion on it, and they're going to tell you, and the game's going to stop to listen to it, and it's not helping this game at all. One thing that is helping it, though, is that Zelda wanted poster that you do see, and apparently they're going to have a wanted poster tote bag reward in the My Nintendo store for 1,200 platinum points, and it looks really cool.
I should get this, because for the last like year, at Gamescom last year, the Yakuza team were giving out like bags with their logo on it, the OGG logo on it, and I gave that to my mom, and she started using it for like as her medicine pouch, and so she just brings it around everywhere. That would be a fucking great replacement.
There you go.
Awesome.
Yeah,
it's nothing like seeing a short Filipino woman. I'm talking about my mother wearing a giant bomb.
Oh, I thought
shirt.
you were talking about my mother.
Surprise! No. Seeing my like 4'11" mother walking around town with a giant bomb shirt, and it's just hilarious.
That's good stuff.
That being said, I am having a bunch of fun with it, Grub.
Me too.
It's
too.
very charming. Game's damn cute.
Very cute.
Sure.
I've grown to really like this art style. especially when I can extract it from Link's Awakening, which is so important to me. And the Game Boy original one, not Game Boy Color one, was like, that's what I want this game to look like. But now that it's kind of standing on its own, I'm like, yep, really enjoy the way it looks. I think it feels mostly pretty good. Doesn't feel quite as good as Link Between Worlds, and all of the puzzle solving stuff is excellent.
I think it is absolutely cruel that they tease you with a fantastic jump in this game only to rip it away from you.
Yeah, that is weird, huh? Yeah, so as Link, you do have a really good feeling jump, and then Zelda has this kind of tiny little jump.
Yeah.
And again, it's like to force you to use these other abilities you have, but I don't. That still doesn't feel good as a player to be like have this really good jump. And you could get that jump back by turning into the sword fighter, but still,
Yeah, limited amount of time and everything.
Yeah.
I know I said this last time, Grub, but I think I would actually like a I'm forgetting the actual name of it. Four Swords Adventure
yeah.
in this engine. I mean, fingers crossed it'd run smoother, but I like this art style.
Yeah.
And I think they should do more with it.
I think now that they are sort of gotten to this point where it's like, okay, two big Zeldas in this new style of here, you're gonna have all these tools, and then now a new top-down Zelda in addition to the Link's Awakening remake. It's like, okay, they got Zelda in a really good place. Maybe now is the time to go back to that period it was after the GameCube era, where it's like, or during the GameCube era, where let's experiment with a bunch of different takes on what Zelda can be in a multiplayer cooperative game. After everything they've learned from making games recently, I think that could be very cool.
Simple. You have, I can't think of a fourth one, so you have 3 characters. All right, you get your regular decular Link. You get a cool jump. And then you get Princess Zelda, and she can still summon beds, spiders, armadillos, oh my. And then the third player has to play by the beat because they're pulling from Cadence of Hyrule.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the third player was Tingle.
Fourth player's Tingle.
You're all secretly Tingle, but you're wearing a mask that turns you into these other characters. So.
Yes. It's also a Majora's Mask, not sequel, but paralequel. That's a new term, folks.
What if there was a Tingle game that just was Astrobot? That'd be perfect. Like just Tingle running around collecting other Tingles.
It is so fucking wild that they gave that creepy motherfucker 2 games of his own.
Yeah, but those are good games. Rosie Ruby Land is the other best game about capitalism, other than Pilot Quest, and then the dating game's actually pretty funny.
I think that about does it for video games this week. Shorter ep, but Lex, you got something special you wanted to share with the folks at home.
Yeah. So after 5 years of running a website dedicated to helping young people break into the games media, we decided to finally start a Patreon for Start Menu. I've just shared it in chat there. Basically, this thing has been, ever since the second month, been run by me. The people who founded it got jobs, and then they were like, hey, can you take over? And I was like, I just got here, but okay. And so I've been running it out of pocket since then. And we've been running this website, and the idea of the website is that we're a website where anyone can come to us and say, hey, I have an idea for a piece, or I'd love to review some games that aren't out yet. And we give them a chance to work with an editor, who's usually me, and we get it up on a really nice-looking website with no ads on it, and it'll stay up there forever, and they can put it on their muck rack, they can put it on their portfolio, they can put it on their CV, they can do whatever they want with it, and we basically try to make it as flexible as it can be. The website can be whatever it needs to be in the moment, so if people want to do scored reviews, or if they want to do unscored reviews, or if they want to do features, or if they want to do news, we try to just facilitate that so that they can show off what kind of writer they are. And we're currently trying to grow, and we're trying to do some different things with this Patreon. The big changes is that we have 4 tiers. The first one is a chuck and a buck tier, which is just $1, and that's if you just want to send us any money that you have laying around, and we'll more than happily take it. The second tier is probably the best value tier, which is $5 a month. And we used to have a monthly news roundup that was done by the very talented Alex Green. And he is now stepping back from that, and it's going to become a weekly thing that will come straight into your inbox on Patreon. And each month that will be written by a different writer, so that people get the chance to experience what it's like writing news. And then at the end of the month, we'll collate the 4 pieces or the 3 pieces, depending on the month, and we'll put them up as a monthly news roundup on the public website so that you can still put it on your CV and you can still show it off and it's still publicly available. Then we have a $10 tier, which we are trying to expand the type of training that we give people. We used to do a Start Menu podcast, and that was always very difficult to organize and making sure everyone had the right equipment. So we're now going to try to get people in with some of my live streams. I live stream on my own personal channel, and what we're going to do is every 2 weeks, we're going to do a live stream on my channel, which will usually be on Fridays, where we'll get some people from the Start Menu Discord into a Discord chat with me, and we'll either play something, or we'll watch something, or we'll do something that will be voted on by our patrons. So the current idea for next week's stream, one of them at least, is to go through some of Danny O'Dwyer's videos of all the tapes, like he's saved from GameSpot, and get like some younger people who might not have been around in 2006 to watch this PlayStation 3 reveal or something, which I think could be really fucking fun. And then the other thing we're going to do is we're going to do game nights, which we're also going to live stream, and we'll let people vote on that. And we're also going to let people vote if they want us to do a game night or a quiz night. And if we do a quiz night, you can submit questions. So you can make young people feel really dumb if you want. And
punch down.
That's always my thing. Yeah,
that's what the website's been about from the start, is punching down. I've just been trying to find a way to facilitate it. And then the final tier is a letter from the editor tier, which is $20 a month, but if you subscribe for even 1 month, you'll get it. And at the end of the year, I will be writing like a personal letter to you, and also we are going to get pieces of art commissioned, which we've done for our 3rd and for our 5th anniversary, with like some really cool characters and some in-jokes from the website hidden on them, and we'll send those out, and we might get them made as postcards, or we might just get them done as prints, and you can keep the print. So yeah, that's what I've been working on, and this has been a long time coming. I've been running Start Menu while I was in college for the last 4 years, 5 years including the pre-college course I did, and it was very easy not to try to monetize it because it was just a side hustle. And I could just be like, well, I'm just doing this in my spare time, even if it was like 80% of my time. But now that I'm freelancing and I'm trying to like actually cover games as a whole, I want to be able to justify putting in the time to Start Menu still, and say, hey, if there's money coming in through this, then that justifies me not taking on a news shift or review shift and things like that. And that's the other thing that we're also going to do is all of the reviews that go up on the site for the longest time have been volunteer based, so we haven't been able to pay for those because I don't have any money to pay people for those. But when we got really big games, when we got Baldur's Gate 3, and when we got a game that's coming out next month, I felt really bad that I couldn't pay people for their time, so I was paying that out of pocket. And so now, with the money that we're making from the Patreon, every month we're going to pick one longer or bigger game from a bigger publisher, that isn't just an indie game that you can beat in a couple of hours, and we'll pay someone to review that. So yeah, that's where we're at with it. We're really excited about it. And the thing I was super curious about was I wanted to ask you how ye got into games media, because I think that it would be interesting to hear a little bit about your journey compared to this.
My journey is I kind of fell into it. As folks may or may not know, my general background is in video production. So I had trained to be a camera op, video editor, all that jazz. I originally wanted to just do that and only do that for the longest time. I'd been a camera guy in reality shows. We know the big show that I worked on. That's right. I followed Paul White around.
It's fine. You make the joke, all right?
As he vaped. God. Hey. Oh. No. I almost accidentally admitted to an actual crime that you could still prosecute me for.
Okay,
Jan, save
do
it
that
for
one.
next Gamescom, and we'll hear it. Okay.
Okay. Whew. But I'd always been a fan growing up. I bought video game magazines all the time if I couldn't buy them because money was tight that month. My mom would just drop me off to the babysitter being the local Barnes & Noble magazine rack.
Yep.
And I would just read and write down as much as possible from video game magazines. And then when the internet became a thing, obviously, big fan of Jeff and Ryan in the early GameSpot days. That also transitioned to the 1UP crew, the 1UP show, very, very formative, as well as Jeff and Ryan, of course, of how I wanted to perhaps approach covering video games. And then I fell into this job because the spot was open, and then I dove right in, and y'all fuckers can't get rid of me. I'm going down when the site goes down.
Hell yeah.
I'll make sure it won't.
I always kind of wanted to do this job. I was reading game magazines in the 1990s. I remember finding a couple that really clicked with me after maybe seeing a couple Nintendo Powers and not like being like, okay, this is cool to find about games. But when I found personality-driven magazines, it's really when I got into it. And then as EGM was kind of becoming more and more online, 1up.com started. I started blogging, finding a community, finding a lot of other people that I became friends with. And a lot of those people now work in the industry, worked as journalists, there was just a massive welling of wellsprings of talent there of like people who knew what they were talking about and now are in charge of very big things. And
look at you.
And look at me
in
now
a
over here.
With skeletons.
Basement with skeletons, just yelling into a microphone. And then the financial collapse happened, and EGM was clearly going down, and 1UP was falling apart, and everyone was leaving. And I kind of decided I got to start trying to do stuff on my own. So found some people. We did some stuff on our own. Dan Shue started his own thing. Kind of fell in with some people who were like, "Hey, maybe come help with that." And I volunteered with him on BitMob. He left BitMob. I was like, "Hey, can I come with you to that thing?" He said yes, and then I started writing about games at GamesBeat. Kind of contractually for a long time. It was freelance at first, and then it's like full-time contract for a very long time. And I was still up until that point. I was still like working like daily like jobs as a delivery driver, as a courier, as a pizza boy, all that kind of stuff. And then once I got first job where it's like I kind of can rely on a check each week, that's something I quit everything else, focused on that, and then eventually got hired like real full-time years later. And and then when I started breaking out and having some pretty good scoops, Jeff Becklar's like, "Hey, come take over Giant Bomb and make sure that Jan doesn't have to do everything by himself." And I'm like, "Okay, I guess."
And here we are now.
And we're going down no matter what.
That's right. We keep the ship afloat. Yep. We are the buoyancy.
Yeah, that's right.
I do want to give a special shout out though to one Austin Walker, because seeing Austin Walker join the website and then just being such a prominent person of color in games media kind of rekindled a desire to try and get into this field, because predominantly white dudes, but I fucks with my white dudes, they fucks with me, bang gang. But seeing Austin Walker being a very prominent face at a website that I absolutely adore and loved growing up made me think, oh, okay, there's space for me. So shouts out to the god Austin Walker.
And Jan, you're super right, because like when I was getting the Patreon ready, I was gathering all of our reviews into one place so that people could look at them all from the last 5 years on one Patreon post. And looking at like all the names that had come through and like have jobs now, seeing like Jess Reyes, who we hung out with at Summer Games Fest. I had totally forgotten that she had written like a thing about a Toho game for us all those years ago, and seeing like people who I now know in PR and in like publishing side of things having written for us, and seeing those people go on and do things, it does really help people feel like they can do it too.
100%. And you too can do it at home, whatever you want to do. Deke, not you though.
You can't get back in your role.
You're not allowed to do it. We still haven't introduced you. All right? Just because we mention your name doesn't mean we introduce you to the show.
It doesn't count.
Folks, you're watching live. Stay tuned for a Blight Club. That's right. We're doing Blight Club on a Friday. I don't know what's going on with the week, but we will end the week with just a collective blink. We're just going to blink and clear our eyes. And I feel so bad for Mike Minotti.
Yeah, I was going to say, what a fucking awful way. You work for a whole week a whole week, and your Friday afternoon, when you should be getting ready to wrap up and plan your weekend, is playing that fucking piece of shit. Oh, you're the worst. You're all the worst. I don't know why I hang out here.
That's, we're actually gonna blame Dan for shoot. Because
Yeah, this is 100% all Dan's fault. Yeah.
yeah, I was ready to do another UPF. We could have played Deadlock or something.
Sure, yeah, we got to do
If
that
he
at some
wasn't
point.
so busy reviewing bullet trains in mystery countries.
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
He loves it there.
Yeah. Have I told my Saudi Arabia story on air? I don't remember.
Is this another felony?
No.
Okay.
No. Anyway, folks, that about does it for the Bombcast Revengeance. Lex, where I know you just spent some time talking about the Start Menu Patreon,
Yeah.
but where else can folks find you on the internet?
Yeah, so you can find Start Menu, startmenu.co.uk is our website if you want to read some of the content. Patreon.com/startmenu is our Patreon. Or Twitter is at the Start Menu, not Start Menu, which is a 45-year-old woman from the Midwest of England who I had linked to as my employer for several years. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at basically Lexi, both spelt with I's at the end. You can find me on Twitch under the same name as well. That's where we'll be streaming Start Menu stuff. I have a bunch of stuff from recent Gamescom things up on Shack News. I have another piece from Shack News that will be going up sometime next week from an event that I covered. And I'll be in a couple of upcoming Play magazines as well, which you should all check out. And yeah, that's everywhere I'm at.
Lovely.
Oh, and if you do want to write for us, if you do want to get involved and you do want to start trying to break into the industry, hello@startmenu.co.uk is our email address. Reach out to us. We try to get as many people in, and we try to find something for that can, give you a voice.
Fantastic, fantastic. And use that voice, folks at home. Use that voice and tell your friends about the Giant Bombcast. That's right. Tell them. And then I want you to tell yourself, wow, I love this podcast. I'm going to give it a thumbs up on a platform that allows that. Perhaps YouTube or something. Folks, that about does it for this week's show. We'll see you again on Tuesday. She's been Lex. He's been Grub. And Deke, rev up the engines. We're going to end the show.
Whoa!
Oh no! He's gonna run over me! He's gonna run over me! He's gonna run over me!
Deacon St. John! Oh, that's unfortunate. Just as Lex started a Patreon.
Is that when you played Jenga so good that the government took notice?
Yes, that's when the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia offered me to come to a video game convention in Saudi Arabia to play Jenga.
That's a good story.
It's completely for shoot, folks.
Every word of that is real.
It's, yeah, like, because we went to DreamHack, we came up with a bunch of ideas, and I just played big Jenga really
And
well.
you did really well. And someone from Saudi Arabia is like, hey, we noticed you from across the room.
Hey, it's a growth market, okay?
That's what they pitched me on. It's a growing market. They really like me over there, apparently. Yeah, that's it. That's it. There's no more to the story. Love you. Bye.